I think so. Hey, what's up? Good afternoon. It's me, B, Double D, uh, coming to you from the branch bunker this morning. Had a little impromptu visit with uh, the little ones yesterday. It rolled over into today, which is nice because it'd been like a month, not a month, like 3 weeks or so, with the time in Arizona, and then coming back off that time. So it's been a little while since I'd FaceTime with the kids, and it's always good. Like, oh, I want to see dad. They want to share stuff. Not the Branch Davidian, no, not the Branch Davidian. Although we can talk about that a little bit. My God, um, goodness gracious! Like, so I woke up to this Fox News update that Biden had like gone to the Ukraine, just like, showed up, trying to figure out why and what's going on, if solidarity improved, But it's a beating a dead horse, right? And we put it into context of like relationships, and I've said from the beginning that there has to be something more going on. There has to be something more that's up behind the scenes because why would you go to such great lengths to insulate information from coming out? Number one, number two, fund a war that's not really yours, and fund it to the point where you are blatantly and obviously, without any sort of care in the world, taking away from your own people. And I'm not trying to make this a political program today because I really don't have the time for that. Although we did start with President of the United States lump because it is President's Day, and really this is one of those holidays where I feel like they sneak it in on you. Everybody's amped up from the Super Bowl. You get Valentine's Day, and then boom, President's Day kind of just gets slid in there. Like, oh yeah, it's President's Day. And of course, if you're Christian, Catholic, this week coincides with like Ash Wednesday. Tomorrow's Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, Fasnacht Day, Punchki Day, however you want to call it. Um, People getting ready for like the big 40-day fast, for Lent. They give up something. And we talked about this a little bit last year, but going into the Lenten season, I think what you can do is you can treat it as more of like 40 days of self-reflection. People are always quick to, oh, I'm giving this up. Well, I'm not gonna have that. I'm gonna try to stay away from this. He's not. Yeah, it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. I drove down through Collingswood for the first time in a while, and all of the blue and yellow flags that were wrapped around trees have all begun to fade and become tattered, and there's a lot of fallen over support for a lot of things that has now sort of gone by the wayside. And not that it's not the flavor of the week. And obviously, innocent life lost. We talked about that before. That's just horrible and horrendous. But you have more life lost in the disaster in the middle of Syria and Turkey with the earthquakes than we've had in this, you know, proxy, whatever sort of war you want to call it. The bottom line in that point of conversation is that there's just so much money and resources that are being spent and allocated over here. And I wanted to bring up something in regards to the the chemical plant, the train derailments, the tractor trailer that had turned over in Arizona. There was supposed to be, and put your white hat on, right, and your foil hat. Like there was supposed to be a release of something in regards with the whole Epstein case, like right around the end of last week, the beginning of this week, whatever. And you have all of this other news that's coming up in the news cycle that is sort of stepping on top of the bigger story. And where we stand now is that we know that this happens. We know that the news cycle runs a specific way. They purposely drop news on certain days. Oh, there's something else that's happening, something else is going on. And I'm not sitting there saying that these things are purposely happening, but I'm saying that I don't know if they're not purposely happening. People forget earlier in the year there was a big dust up between the government and like Conrail, Norfolk Southern, about they were going to go on strike and a supply chain. And you never really know how far people are willing to go. But one of the young ladies who was given commentary stated that if you have land that becomes classified by the EPA or by the government as being affected by like a toxic waste, a toxic chemical, a toxic runoff, whatever it is, if the government chooses to do so, they can assume that land and all that encompasses it at like no cost and without any sort of repercussion. So you start to think about, well, where is this land located? What is it in relation to? Is there something strategically beneficial about these places? Week before, 2 weeks before, we have all of these surveillance balloons, surveillance equipment flying through, objects getting shot down over Alaska, objects getting shot down over like Huron, up there, Michigan, Great Lakes, off the coast. And they say, well, they tried to shoot it down the first time and they missed. Well, I don't know about you, but I really don't see our technology and our equipment missing anything, especially if it's a balloon, right? I mean, they're pretty stationary. I mean, it's flying, it's floating around. Obviously, there's movement out there in the metaverse. People are going to criticize me for saying stationary, but it has no thrusters. There's no flaps on it. It's not maneuvering around. So I don't see how you can, shoot like a $250,000 missile or spray and pray and miss it. I just little difficult wrapping my head around that, but nonetheless, yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the what Brian's talking about in the chat is like the land transfer in some of these areas, specifically the PES oil site, Southwest Philly. It's something more specific and something above your little rational pay grade when all of a sudden it becomes a call it like a black site, but it's the accessibility is like completely cut off. The more people are paying attention to who's watching what's going on in and around, and that those little branches start to leak out more and more. There's always these instances where, for some reason, unknown little bit of land, unknown little bit of airspace, whatever it is, and things are insulated, things are protected. But you know, let's just say there's a lot more going on than people are aware of and need to be aware of, and that's always the question when you talk about these UFOs, you talk about these surveillance objects, or you talk about foreign objects. We're not saying yes or no coming into your airspace. Do you want to start a war? Do you not want to start a war? Is there extraterrestrial life? Is there uh, another government that's using a little bit of overreach? And everyone is of the mindset, oh yeah, let us know. We want to know. Yes, we want to know. Well, again, uh, bring it back to the house test, right? If you have something really significant that's going on, you do your best to insulate everyone from the honest to goodness unveiled truth as much as you possibly can for whatever reasons. They could be noble reasons, they could be ill noble reasons, they could be just out of functionality. Right? It's like when someone gets sick, right? Say grandma or grandpa gets sick and they have cancer and they only have like 3 months left to live. You're going to tell someone, or you're going to insulate with, oh, they're sick, and we're just going to enjoy the time we have and take every day, and it's really wonderful, and we're going to cherish this life. You'd be hard pressed to come out and say, and it does happen. Right? It does happen. Honesty, best policy. But when you said to someone and you're like, yo, you got like 3 months left to live, that people people react certain ways. Some people are very rational. Some people are very lucid. Some people are hysterical. So, as much as you may or may not want to know what is going on, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably better if you kind of just, went about your day. Now, eventually, it's going to be a point where, all of that's going to be revealed or put out. And you know that there's stuff and crazy things going on. I mean, we're, we're not up there looking around every single day for, you know, other life. We're not up there every day looking for, spy balloons that are coming across, but more and more people have the availability, people see things, people talk about things, so they're able to identify it quicker, right? And information is the power, right? Information is where people nowadays are really making, their money. It's not about a product they're going to sell because you're always going to need products. You're always going to need things that sustain you, keep your house running, keep your car going, clothes on your back. There's always trends. But the real equity is in the information and how much you like are willing to give up. That's why all these like little apps are under so much criticism, right? It's like, not only are you letting them have access to your trends and the algorithm that's followed with that, but they want to know your call history. They want to know your messages. They want to know your banking habits, right? They want to know what is pushing you to a particular site. Why? Because then they can better formulate a plan. They can better formulate a product that maybe you are going to purchase. It could be insignificant. I mean, how many dollars are spent every day on uh, like dollar store lollipops, right? There's billionaires out there making dollar store lollipops. Again, all about information. When you wake up and you find out, your president is like halfway across the world and he's hanging out in Ukraine, you're like, okay. Again, information. Why are we getting this information? Why is it coming out now? Why did he have to visit? Why did he um why did he feel the need to go there now? Is it like a reinforcement of, the American commitment? Or is it, hey, you guys still have a lot of shit on us that you're hanging out that you want to dump in front of everybody? I better show up and kind of wash this over and shake your hand and maybe get some more bucks. Maybe have a little show of power. But the bottom line is everybody knows that this is it's just fraud. It's fraud under the guise and under the reality that innocent people are caught in the middle of this conflict, dying over one one guy's wish to take back territory that he thinks is his and belongs to his empire, more or less, and another guy who's a reality TV star who's been elected president. Sound familiar, right? But yet he's actively engaging in a war that's directly tied to our president, our president's son, an energy company, and now, whereas in the past it might have been a couple $1 billion. Now you're talking about trillions of American dollars that are being funneled through the Ukraine, who are in the middle of a war. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm paying for someone to be in a fight, if I'm paying for someone to be in direct opposition to one of my biggest adversaries, if I'm supplying weapons and goods and resources, excuse me about that, then honestly, like, I feel like I'm in a war, and I feel like I'm I'm getting asked to perpetuate this, and you've played on my emotions. I get it. You can play on the innocence of people. Like no one wants to see innocent people go down. And I know it's kind of like it's a little uh, repetitive conversation, but we've we as a collective have sort of tapped out. Like you can only throw so much good money after bad, You can only put so much energy into something till finally it just caps out and you're like, yeah, I really see what's going on here, right? It's like your job, it's like your relationships. There's only so much you can give into a relationship or into a job or a career. To one or two things has to happen. Three things has to happen, right? So either things become reciprocal, i.e., like the light bulb goes on both sides, like, hey, wait a minute, yeah, you know what? We've been doing and going about some things in a really, crazy, immature, shady way. We haven't been on the same page. There's reasons why we're screaming and yelling, fighting. There's a reason why the business deal didn't get done. There's a reason why, I drugged my feet and I didn't order certain supplies. I left you hanging without resources. Um, there wasn't enough, you know, preparation, time, attention, given to a certain matter. So boom, now you're left with it. Well, get pissed at me. I'm gonna be pissed at you now. And screw the business and screw you and screw the relationship. And it's a bunch of, fighting and hemming and hawing. And then there's a moment, there's an epiphany moment. You go, wait a minute. Why? Like, why is this getting perpetuated? We can make this thing work really well if we're willing to do X, Y, and Z. And you both can see business, relationship, private, public, the end goal of something without being uh, without undercutting the other person or undercutting the business or talking about whatever it is. You know what I'm getting at. You're getting at, you that moment of maturity. You know what? Yeah, all this stuff, water under the bridge. It happens. Da 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 da. Business was good, life was good, but you know what? Put on the big boy and big girl pants, big business pants. Buckle down, do the work, forge ahead, and you're going to reap the benefits. Like, there's going to be really good benefits. You got out of your own way, right? And they got out of their own way, and you saw bigger goal, bigger picture. Or you just blow it up. You're like, nope, forget it, not worth it, not worth the time, not worth the energy. Can't invest anymore. I'm out. Right? Usually when that happens, you have this like big blow up. Because one person is still in, the other person is out, then this one's in, then you're out, the business is good, and do this, can't do that, try this guy. No, 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 no. Done. The one person, one entity, one component of the business, one guy in the contract, one person on the bid, they always walk away looking like the person who has taken the higher road, right? They always. Or the last one, you get to this mutual agreement where, you know what, look, business was great while it lasted. We ran as much as we can. We can't reinvent the wheel anymore. But you know what? Let's keep in contact. And if something comes up down the line where I'm gonna need a couple of widgets and gizmos, and you got some gadgets and googops, we'll help each other out. Again, bigger picture, separate entities going forward, bigger picture together going forward, bigger picture, F you, screw you, don't need anything to do with it, all the shit and storms that comes with it. Us, as a people, in my opinion, we love the freedoms on both sides, right? We love it. You want to get out there and, free speech up the wazoo. Well, as much as I want to talk about, free speech and Second Amendment and guns, and you want to sit there and talk about rainbow hats and, feeling like you're a cat today, cool. But you can't be pissed off at me because I want to talk about this. And you can't condemn me if I want to expand upon and criticize what you're doing. This is this two-way street that people don't want to walk on and drive on, yet that's how they want everybody else to perceive things and how they want things to be. One of the greatest powers you can have in your life is it, take this how it sounds, it is not being beholden to anyone, but giving yourself freely to whatever it is that you are investing in, right? Career, self, relationship, job. Like you, you want to be an asset. You don't want to be a you don't want to be like a fixed commodity. That Brian's always going to be there. Like, treat him like shit. Always going to be there. Hey, look, couple opinions here and there. Always going to be there. Nina, nah, she's always going to be there. She always shows up. Yeah, don't worry about it. Couple flowers here and there. Boom, everything is cool. Don't got to put in any time, no effort, no energy. Nah, I just string them along. Everything is good. Well, that's what's been going on to us as a society, right? Like we are being strung along, really being strung along. I mean, how can you continue to ask a people, and pretty much without their permission? I mean, they ask your permission, but you're already paying them taxes, so it doesn't really matter. And you're sending all of these resources that should be allocated and used here, halfway across the world, to settle a problem or an issue that you didn't start. We didn't start this. And I'm all for helping people out. I really am. I mean, I like to think I go a little more above and beyond than just the average person. But, there is credence to charity being at home and taking care of your own house. Like, this house here is kind of a mess, kind of fucked up. Like, it really is. We have no consistency whatsoever. We have representatives. I mean, look, take them for what they're worth. But people calling for like a national divorce. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like separating like the red states and the blue states. And listen, like, why don't we just stop with the BS? I saw TJ jump in for a second, and I think he jumped out. But like, why do we have to be like that? Why have to be red? Why do we have to be blue? Seriously, like, but we get into so much controversy, so much trouble, so much of a consistent spin in a cycle that it's red, that it's blue. He said this, she said that. You know what happens? We go through another session of Congress and literally nothing gets done. We go through another presidential term and literally nothing gets done because they sit there and they want to undo every single fucking thing that the guy before them did. I don't know. There are definite benefits to living in a more conservative state, right? And there's benefits socially to live in a blue state for people who may be in a bad spot, of course. That's not saying that the programs don't exist in the conservative states, but the use isn't at an epidemic level, right? There is a mindset to particular areas. There is an outlook that applies to particular places, and it's good. Yeah, and be a little more open-minded. But don't go off the deep end. Seriously, don't go off the deep end. Why? Because you can't recover from that. You can't recover from that, right? It's like, it's the ball rolling down the hill, right? Once you start that going, that momentum's just gonna carry and carry and carry and carry and carry. Everybody doesn't realize it's nasty by state. Yeah, dude, absolutely. Absolutely. It'd be nuts. It would be absolutely nuts. It's just coming out as a national divorce is not a civil war. But Biden and the neocons are leading us into World War III while forcing corporate ESGs and gender confusion on our kids. Enough is enough. Brian's making a great point. There are so many pockets of red and blue all around. All around. Just because you have these major metros that are, usually traditionally more liberal, surrounding that you normally have a lot of conservative areas. And no one needs any kind of civil war and going back and forth with one another because you all can exist and be happy and be fine and be on the same page. And we've seen it. It's a the social experiment of not not COVID and not a pandemic or a plandemic or however you want to define it, right? Because that you're getting strict direction from your government overlords telling you this is what has to be done. So in that instance, you're gonna have conflict, right? You're gonna have people who are like, "Fuck you! You can't tell me what to do. This is my freedom. I'm gonna walk outside without a mask and do what I want to do. This is America." Yeah, yeah, pretty much, dude. And the other side is like, "Oh no, you gotta listen. It's very safe to tell you that." And it's okay, but then you take, and you hate to say these things, but this is I was said this before. This is what it takes, right? It takes a 9/11. It takes Damar Hamlin on national TV, like dying on the field, being brought back to life for people of all shapes, sizes, colors, backgrounds, blah 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 blah, to get together and be like, "Yo, life is precious. Yep, you're right. Like we should really be focusing on like what matters and forging ahead as a collective whole, as opposed to constantly trying to break each other down, break each other apart, define and redefine someone." So shut up, man. Seriously, shut up. If you're not redefining yourself and if you're the same person that you were at 15, 25, 35, 45, y- I'm going to say you probably have a lot of unresolved issues. You should mature, you should grow, you should change. You really really should. You really should. And sometimes it's, we look at all these examples I would see through history, right? The conversion of Saul. One minute he's sitting there, he's killing Christians, naming the Roman Empire, striking them down. Next minute, boom, instant conversion. You know, now he's Saint Paul doing his thing. And in these moments of great epiphany, usually surrounded in the construct of tragedy or very undesirable condition, could be drought, could be power outages, could be an economic collapse. You see where people come together, or you see where people continue to push one another apart, push them away. And we as a whole, I believe, are coming to the pinnacle where there's going to be more pushback than there is acceptance. That part of the pendulum is coming back, and people are no longer willing to be blindly taken advantage of. Like up to this point, everything was good faith. Everything's good faith, man. You know why? Because 9 times out of 10, people see the greater good. Like, yeah, help them out, help our people out. Let's be cool. Let's be good. But not anymore. I mean, seriously, not anymore. There's too much that is being not even asked of, but just moved away and taken away without any sort of inclusion. I mean, our Congress is voting over and over, hand over fist, to send billions, now trillions of dollars to fund a war that we're not even involved in. What do we have in the game? Okay, yeah, I see the wheat production. I see the strategic location. I get that part. But really, like, why are we so? And I'm not bashing the Ukraine. That's not what I'm doing here. And I'm not bashing their people. I'm not bashing the innocent life. I'm not even bashing Putin at this point. God, listen, there's some shit that Putin, like, look, not a Putin apologist, and I'm not a psycho man hater kind of thing. It's like it's Putin. All right, it's like G is G, and Rocket Man is Rocket Man. But normally, when we invest as a country, resources, finances, like there's something going on, right? It's like if England needed something and we showed up, or if France needed something, right? You'd be like, all right, okay, let's let's give you a hand. Why? Why? Well, because you hooked each other up during World War II. France bailed you out at the very beginning with like the Revolutionary War. So like there's still a little like give and take, right? There's still something that's there. Strategically, you've got bases there, so you kind of help one another out. You try to be on the same page with things. But the only thing that you can see in this instance is that some shady shit went down at the top of our government, and particular players in our government have a big chip that got called in on them to hook these guys up. That's all it is. Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. I can't agree, but both on Brian's points in the chat. Everybody else is listening now and later. You know, he's saying any kind of war here would be like Lebanon, and he's right. He 100% is right, because there's a there's a cluster of individuals that are very red, very conservative, very uh, yeah, I don't know, nationalistic, whatever you want to call it. They love their country, fight for their freedom, and they have a lot of you know. There's a lot in the arsenal, right? There's a lot that if they're challenged on stuff, they're not going to have any problem defending themselves. And then on the opposite side of the coin, where you have someone who's not acting out of a full logical conscience platform of decision, there's a lot of like there are like you want to find illegal guns? There's a lot of illegal guns over there. A lot of kids in the inner city, a lot of people hanging around, just spraying and praying, indiscriminate, don't care. And look, when you start off something, and Brian knows this, and other people who've been in, you know, combat or war zones, or have been faced with actual firefight, um, people love to join in the fight, right? And people love it when it's fueled by an ideology or a feeling or an emotion. That shit gets contagious. It's really contagious. So you'll have people strapping up, going off. They don't even know why they're doing it. All they know is like, yeah, shit's going down. Got to be here for my people. Lock and load and let's go. And then the other side is very strategic to go about and defend, gain position, whatever it is. The point being is that it's something that if you were to start it off here, you'd have a real life like Red Dawn. You really would. People would go pockets to pockets. You'd have posses forming again, and then it would become indiscriminate. Maybe that's the plan, right? Maybe that's the plan, is to get everybody here so pissed off at one another that they just fight and kill one another, and then Big Brother comes in and cleans up the mess. We don't know. And then to Brian's other point, you're right. Ukraine's not with NATO. They're begging for everyone's help, and there is nothing that is going on that is such a such a cause for like a humanitarian intervention, to use his word. You'd have more foothold addressing what's happening in like northeast and northwestern China, where they're loading people on trains by like the tens of thousands and just whisking them away. Even to even to their own people sometimes. Forget the whole Islamic and Muslim component of it, but individuals who do not agree with the right and the rubrics of the DCP, people disappear. Like, they literally disappear. And we worry here in the United States about, my Grubhub meal not showing up on time, and bitching and complaining about the Grubhub driver, or being the Temple police officer, God rest his soul, who lost his life because some punk kids were trying to carjack or robbery, convenience store. I mean, like, are you serious? Like, this is what we're doing here. And meanwhile, in other places in the world, people are being just like taken out of their bed, taken out of their home, whisked away, never to be seen again. People are fighting a war on two countries, and you're supplying the money for it, and you're not speaking up, and you're so wrapped up in the story that they have you politicking and pleading and asking for private and public support for this war, and you have no dog in the fight. You have no dog in this fight whatsoever. Like, if Ukraine becomes completely autonomous and independent, what do you get out of it? And I'm not saying you have to always be, oh, what have you done for me lately? Geez, geez, Duncan, like, you don't want to help innocent people. Oh, you're an asshole. No, 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 no. I do want to help people who are being oppressed. I do want to help people who are innocently losing their lives. However, the the meter and the fare that has been paid, the resources that have been exhausted. I mean, I'm pretty good with blind faith. I'm pretty good with trusting people. I'm pretty good with letting people run their course. But at some point, like our relationship, like our business agreement, like our business decisions that we come into, like, you got to help me out here. Are we on the same page? Are we gonna have our moment of epiphany and like shut this thing down, crank it all the way up, go forward with it? Are we gonna shake hands and be like, hey, it was nice, but you know what? You expend a lot of resources. I spend a lot of resources, put a lot of time, a lot of effort in this. Got some good things out of it, got some bad things out of it. But you know what? Best of both worlds for you and for me is to take a step back, have a good day. Or do you get to this point where people are like, fuck you, it sucks. Now I'm getting pissed off about it. You're taking things without my permission. And oh, by the way, you're shorting me at home now. Exactly. Exactly. And then Brian's getting to my next point. Funding Ukrainian pensions, scholarship programs so they can all continue with our taxes, your tax dollars. Like your kid's going to a school that has cinder block walls and probably asbestos tiles. It doesn't have any kind of central HVAC unit because now that we're past COVID, none of that stuff really matters anymore, right? Like before, it's like, oh, you better retrofit all these schools. They need a pure, like, triple HEPA filter, da 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 da. We got to get rid of all of this old heating and cooling because it's not efficient. Crickets now, right? Crickets. Some things laying around, and then you find out people weren't using the money and resources to do that shit anyway. Big surprise. Big surprise. But now, my taxes that are being paid back into the government, they're paying for educational resources and another country's retirees. There's a lot of people here that don't even get $1,000 a month on their Social Security when they retire. And they've worked 40 years, 45 years. Maybe it's because they were their own independent business person. But we've reached this epiphany, this point, this pinnacle, this moment where everyone is really understanding how much is being allocated away from the people here. And at the same time, we're taking on more and we're taking on more. And all you're doing is you continue to ask your people, your citizens, oh, just $2 more. Oh, just $3 more. Oh, just people do not mind helping. People are inherently good. People are always wanting to see the best out of whatever arrangement you're in. But at some point, specifically, specifically when this is a national engagement, but when this is a national dialogue, when it is a national problem, you got to do better than, well, the people there in Ukraine need us and they're fighting an unjust war and they don't have the resources of a NATO and we need to be there to protect their life and liberty. Yeah, you're right. I get that. But we can spend this money and take my taxes and allocate it for their benefit. But what about here? What about what's going on in our country? And we're so separated, so divided, so mixed up, all for a reason, right? There's a reason why when people talk about red states, blue states, liberal, conservative, moderate, then talk about all the fluid gender identities, and like there's a reason why there's so many choices and so many things. Because any sort of unified front, no matter what it is, could be good, could be bad, could be batshit crazy. Anything that has a little bit of cohesiveness is always stronger and more of a problem than something that's all scattered. It just is. It just absolutely is because there's strength in numbers, right? There's strength in numbers, and right now we have these pockets, these little cells of strength in numbers that when they come up, the greater narrative is, oh, that's one, that's really good, that's really good. And then the other part is, oh, those people are crazy. Those people are nuts. They don't know what they're doing. They want to burn the whole thing down. No, people just want a sense of what is actually happening, what is actually going on. Because we've all reached a limit, we've all tapped out. And like relationships, right? It comes to a point, business relationship, personal relationship, it comes to a point where you really need to know where you stand. And not being in a position to question or ask is a humongous red flag. Whether it's one on one, whether it's in a business, whether it's citizen to government, the whole theory of a good relationship, the whole theory of this country was being able to have legit checks and balances. And because of the way that we've let things persist, career politicians, no term limits, two political parties, two different sides to the same coin, right? To, opposite wings on the same bird, however you want to spin it. That's where we are fully on at. And we, the ones who support it, pay for it, run it, vote for it, elect it, live with it, are really divided into two distinct camps. And it's not even a matter of color. It's not a matter of race. It's not a matter of sexual preference. It's not a matter of even political identification. We're in the two camps where you have people who are fine with just, yeah, it is what it is. Let it exist. No big deal. It's cool. It'll be cool. And then the other camp is like, yo, gonna need something here. You're gonna have to help me out. You're gonna have to walk me through some things. You're gonna have to talk to me about what is actually going on. What am I paying for? What have I signed up for? And you've signed up for a lot of these things by no choice of your own, right? I mean, stuff is just getting paid, sent out, and taken care of. Programs are coming along. Change the education system, change Medicare, change Social Security, change healthcare, change the tax code, more inflation. And you're just, yeah, just keep paying for it, keep paying for it, keep paying for it, keep paying for it. So finally, you're like, yo, dude, let's have a little sit down. The bitch of the situation is now when you ask those questions, you're some sort of crazy individual. But why do you need to know about that? It's all getting taken care of. Don't worry about it. Just keep putting in the pot. Keep putting in the pot. You'll be okay. Gas comes down a couple cents. Oh, it's getting better. Food comes down. Oh, it's getting better. Couple weeks, boom. Stuff right back to where it was. Because they've pushed out the pendulum a little farther, pushed out the pendulum a little farther. Throw a couple cookies, throw a couple crackers. People very amenable. Very amenable. Right? We take a lot of people together at the same point, stand up and say something. And look, a couple people slap on the wrist all that January 6th stuff. Right? Listen, I'm not saying things were the right move or the wrong move or whatever it is, but that is in no way even close to what an uprising would look like. It just wouldn't. And I'm not inciting anything here. But you want to see like an uprising? Go look at like Turkey. Go look at Syria. Go look at Beirut. Go look at Lebanon. Look at these places where you've had hundreds of thousands of people take to the street to challenge the government. Look at the shit happens in Brazil every time they have an election. I mean, this was isolated to like a couple square blocks in DC, not the entire country up in arms. But if you're watching the trajectory, you're watching the scope, you are getting pushed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Taliban asking the Afghanistan government textbook. There you go. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. That's a great example. And we left that place in a clusterfuck. And you leave behind equipment, you leave behind weapons, you leave behind cash. You leave so much behind to get out and run and hide because you don't want to really address the matter and what's going on. But yet you want to be there for everybody. You want to take care of everybody and bring everybody in. And listen, I'm all for that. I'm all for helping. I am. But you're going to pass that front door test before you get into my house. You just are. You just are. I mean, you want to come in, you want to live, you want to work, you want to learn, you want to, you know, become part of this relationship, this country, this state. Got to kind of give a little bit. There's a give and a take. Again, you don't think that's the case? Go pick yourself up, go to another country, and try to go in that country. And this isn't hating on immigration. This isn't hating on refugees. This isn't hating none of that shit. I hate when people fucking think about that stuff. Oh, you think about that? You must hate them. No. Oh, you got privilege. No. No, I have the gift of waking up every single day, going to work, putting my time in, building on my relationship, working on myself, seeing my kids, seeing the people that are important to me, trying to contribute to society as a whole, be a good example, and do it all over again. If I mess up, I deal with the consequences. I live with it. I learn with it. I correct myself. I be better. Everyone's had those moments. You've been knocked down. Okay, fine. Dust yourself off. You changed. You're not doing this again. Pick up. Move forward. But you're actively contributing. Like you're putting your energy into something that's bigger than you for a greater good. And you're actually able to have bits of checks and balance against yourself, against your relationships, against your society. But now that construct that is the government They are under the under the elected officials. mm, They're carrying out their own agenda under the false pretense of it being your voice. I'm sure all the delegates that go to Congress and the House from Kansas, Topeka, Des Moines, Brooklyn, I'm sure that on their list of things that are important to them, a foreign war doesn't really crack the top 10, right? It probably really doesn't. They're worried about agriculture, they're worried about water, they're worried about farmland, they're worried about the infrastructure in the borough, right? They're worried about sanitation, they're worried about the power grid, right? They're worried about availability to resources, cost reduction for grain. Why they sent the representatives to Congress. Let's work on this shit. Right? That's why big states and little states both represented. Let's work on it. But really, what's really happened over the last couple of years? Trillions and trillions of dollars to a foreign country. No allocation of resources here. We're screaming and yelling and fighting over a woman's right to do what she wants to do with her body. How many sexes we have, or how many genders we have. And we have real threats like foreign countries surveilling our land and our strategic military locations. But that's no big deal. Don't worry about it. We got to take care of it. It's okay. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. You serious? I mean, if I saw some shady dude like drive by the school or the house one time, I'd be like, yeah, noted. I see him drive by a second time, I'd be like, all right, okay. But if I see him a third time, a fourth time, come on, man. Yeah, absolutely crazy, man. It's just like at what point? Seriously, like at what point? And again, like I mentioned it, it always takes something that is outside the normal in order for everybody, to get on page. And whether we like to admit that or not, we're so invested in what's going on with us. There we go. Susan Rice plans about racial equity. Decision to assign rights to the mission of ensuring policymaking for my beliefs about racial equity rather than hand that job to blah 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 blah. Yeah. Uh, I'm reading the exact details, the exact quotes that she had on this bipartisan infrastructure investment of, top down racial equity. Listen, I am a firm believer that, if one is able to perform a task and do the job, no problem. All about it. Like, I think that is just, I don't know. If I see someone who's qualified and they're qualified, that's great. But when you make it the beginning and end all of the parameters or of your mission, you pigeonhole yourself. You back yourself into a corner, man. You really do. And, you know, there's times when, like, matters of like equity and justice are extremely, extremely important. And there are times, without a doubt, over the course of the economic development, the private business development in our history, where people of multiple backgrounds have been kept out of positions or jobs. The way it was. What I don't agree with, and I can't speak totally on her position of, well, we have to fill all of these positions with uh, particular, minority groups or women's groups or whatever it is. Um, what I find to be troubling is that when something like this becomes to, when it really gets to be like the only thing you're concerned about, uh, you push back against how people want to run, their own business, right? How they want to carry their own professional entities that they set up. Like, if I have a business and I choose to employ, let's look at Tilted Kilt Hooters, or the opposite side. Let's look at like maybe some men's, like the club, the cave, or the club. I don't know, someplace like that. If I know that employing, you know 20 to 24-year-old co-eds in scantily clad dress is going to sell me a shit ton more, coffee at the drive-through little Kodak booth in the middle of, Waukegan, Wisconsin. Well, that's my business model. It's my own private business. I pretty much can do whatever hell I want to do with it. In the same breath, I'm not going to specifically look away or not hire particular individuals because they're not, Swiss Miss blonde hair, blue eyes. Variety is the spice of life. Like, whatever you want to do, go ahead and do that stuff, man. It's your own private business. You can do what you want to do. In the same breath, if I want to serve, pizza to only older white bald guys with a beer gut who, want to sit around and watch horse racing all day and not sell it to teenage kids, that's my prerogative, right? I mean, I can do that. I don't need anyone telling me what I can and what I can't do and who I can service, who I can't service. That's why it's your own private business. Now, should it be available? Sure, it should be available. But, hey, listen, man, different strokes, different folks, right? It's like, why, when you're cutting lawns as a kid and you're walking around, you're like, not going to that house. Why? Well, maybe the person's an asshole, right? Maybe the person is cheap and they don't pay you commensurate to what you're doing. Oh, my service has to be available to everybody and I have to do if they ask me? No, I don't. When, there's a lot of injustice. There's a lot of places in this world where people don't get a fair shake. But mandating or forcing the idea of specifically filling roles just to check a box, like, if I was in that minority or in that position, maybe it's my own pride, maybe it's my own hubris, maybe it's my own uh, work ethic, but I don't want you just to hand me the job just because, oh, well, I'm a first generation, Spaniard. I mean, why? Like, did I earn it? Do I, like, have I shown the merit in order to get to this position? Now, if it comes down to myself and someone else, and we've both had good interviews and we both fit the role, and then people are making decisions, well, then that's their decision. But you shouldn't pigeonhole or force someone in just to bring it up to speed, right? And I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, but I think, like, there's a better way to go about making these changes. There's a better way to have the inclusivity without it being forced. Like, anytime you force something or you mandate something, unless it's for general well-being, safety, health, nobody's really, like, You know what I mean? It gets to people. It gets to people. And it's across the board. Like it's literally across the board. Because here's the point, right? So like the HBCUs, right? Okay. So what if me? What if I wanted to go sit on the board at the HBCU, right? Take me to Tulane, take me to Elon, take me to Grambling. I want to be on that board. I, why? Well, because I'm qualified. I should be on that board. Well, you can't. Well, why can't I? Well, because this is a historically black college university. You can't. Well, why not? I think I think there should be a forced issue of equity on the boards of these private, traditionally black colleges and universities that I need to be represented. My background and my people need to be represented. Well, why? Well, because I have a lot of black neighbors. I have a lot of black friends. We're working with each other all the time. We have great friendship. It's great. Like, why can't I be part of this? Right. So now the other side of the coin is, well, we have these positions over here, and traditionally it's been held by these communities. I mean, think about that. Think about that. Now, if you can go back and you can show that there's been like legit, like keeping people out, and not holding it, well, then yeah, you know what, man? Come on, like, all right, I see your point, I see your case, but no one wants to listen to the other side of the story. No one wants to see the other side of the coin. No one wants to play it back that way. Because when you play it back and you go the opposite direction, oh, well, wait a minute. I didn't mean it like that. Well, which way did you mean it? What way did you mean it? And it comes full circle to the point where yes, there's a lot of things that traditionally exist. There's a lot of positions that traditionally exist. There's a lot of, um, you know, uh, there's a lot of systemic problems. There's a lot of racial injustice problems. And there are like it's existed. It's been there. You can prove it. You can look at it. That people shouldn't go to jail for like 15 years on a couple grams of weed, but they did. That was a big, big thing in the 80s. The sin of the drugs. Put everybody in jail. Okay, but we've gotten past that now. Let's get past this now. Let's move on. Yes, you realize you crippled an entire generation, but did it on purpose. Don't say you didn't do it on purpose, 'cause you did it on purpose. If you didn't, then you would have seen the bigger picture instead of just what was happening right in front of you. But the whole idea of everything ranging along the matters of and related to equity, right? There's such a broad stroke, when it comes to that. And you, you really have to be careful with how you start things, right? And it's in all areas. It's in your relationships, it's in your business things, it's in your personal dealings. You know, it's the whole, you give someone an inch, they take a foot. And depending upon how much you're invested in that individual or that business, you begin to justify it. You begin to rationalize it until finally one day you wake up and you're surrounded by a situation that is completely foreign. And you're like, oh my God, how do we get back from this? And the funny thing, hey, yoke on your face, is that you don't go back from it. You can't come back from it. And the only way that you could realistically reset that is by some really serious shit hitting the fan. And a lot of people fall into that in their relationships. A lot of people fall into that in their business. They just, "Oh, we created this thing. It is what it is. It's holding its own. And you know what? There's going to be so much of a shitstorm to try to get out of it. It's not worth it." Right? What they say with the marriages, oh, cheaper to keep her. Yeah. A lot of times it is. Businesses, right? A lot of times like, really like to expand, but you know what? Gonna put us in a bad spot. So you know what? All these great hopes and aspirations and products and whatnot, shelf it. Stay right where we're at. That's why in little podunk corners of the country, you still have these car dealerships that are sustainable. You still have these landscape companies that are sustainable. Why? They got their niche. They're right there. They're not. They have the greatest ideas in the world. And the greatest salespeople in the world. But the most streamlined ARP, like all of it, not going anywhere. Chill. Let's not break it. It's not broken. Let's just try to fix it. Some things have to be fixed. Some things have to be addressed. Some things have to be shattered and broke down. But that takes a lot of people, a lot of mature people, a lot of mature responses. But conversation for another day. No, we kind of just had a little chit chat as opposed to the big lessons. But I think what we take away from today is there comes a point in any process, any relationship, any business dealing where now that you've invested the time, the energy, and the resources, you really need to be fully honest with yourself, number one, really, and that's the hardest part for most people. You have to ask for honesty from the other entity, person, place, or thing, and you have to trust that they're actually going to be honest with themselves and give you an honest response. And you need like real like transparency on what's happening, where's it going, what's the intention, is everyone still committed to this, are we on board, does it have a good outcome at the end. And in the metaphorical light of what's going on with the Ukraine and what's being put to the side here in the States and our needs and our wants and our equity, since that's the big word for today, um, you're getting the shaft. You're getting the shaft. Like, I can't say it any clearer than that. You are. I love those people to death. I wish them the best. I really, really do. And I would hope that someone would have the same sort of empathy for, for me and my people. If God forbid something like that were to happen here. But, after, billions and trillions of dollars and all of this other backdoor stuff that's going on, what are we getting as a benefit? Really, like, what are we getting as a benefit? Because now I'm invested, right? Now we're invested. This is going on now, like over a year, a little more, where we've taken our money, our resources, and shipped them halfway across the world for a fight that we have no dog in the fight whatsoever. Meanwhile, chemical plants are burning down, trains are getting derailed, the infrastructure and the roads suck over here. I've got Chinese spy balloons flying across my country. My border is still a clusterfuck. And oh, by the way, what's going on with the health and the fallout of everything that came by with all these vaccines and COVID? And I'm not making a big issue, but listen, we got a lot of stuff on our plate that we're not paying attention to here. That now, guess what? I'm calling in my little chip at the table to say, look, you got to bring me up to speed. I can't deal with this. Oh, well, we don't know answers anymore, or oh, we don't have anything scheduled, or oh, he's not talking today. No, no, no. We are going to talk today. We are going to sit down. We are going to clear the air. Like, you've got to bring me up to speed with what's happening here. You do. You do. You owe it to your people. Just like you owe it to your relationship, just like you owe it to your business, just like you owe it to your job. You know, people always have meetings. We always have meetings. You always have sit downs. You always have half the time you sit there and you bitch back and forth about something and you come across no real solutions. Till finally somebody's like, you know what? Done. See you later. Can't deal with this anymore. And then someone gets mad, someone gets pissed, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, ask questions. Be honest with yourself. Trust that the other person, entity, thing is being honest with you. Take all that information. Don't make a rush decision, but make the right decision. I think Brian put it in the chat. I read it in a quote the other day. If there's two decisions you have to make in any kind of situation, always take the harder decision, because the easy decision is always going to be there. Well, right now, the hard decision is to come forward with what is going on and letting people know, hey, this is going on. This is happening. This is what we need to be aware of and prepared for. And this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z. Kind of a check-in. Just give me a check-in, man. Don't give me a State of the Union where you just sit there and blast facts out or blast opinions out. We're past that. We're past that. Because it's not great right now. Education systems all over the place, healthcare systems all over the place. Fuel and resources are up and down, food prices is up, housing is up, there's inflation everywhere. It doesn't look like we're in a tough spot. We're in a tough spot. People want to talk about the elephant in the room sometimes. You got to talk about the elephant in the room sometimes. So, it is what it is. Talk about it. Be about it. Make a healthy change if you need to make healthy change. Maybe you can work together. Maybe you can't work together. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Be the better person. Coming up 2 p.m. nofilter.net. AJ Johnson has a social media marketing class. Go check it out. He's a gentleman from, I believe it's Colorado. That is going on with him. Oh my gosh. Ooh, we have breaking news about St. Hubert's. Let's see what's happening. Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. So, just so you guys know or you don't know, there was a humongous outcry here at one of the local high schools because they had like this whole race little video that was going on and just crazy. Kids again. Kids. Need a little more education, a little more life. But everything comes out on social media, people. Everything comes out on social media. So if you're over there texting with so and so and this person, just beware. Probably more transparent than our government is with us. Anyway, all right, guys. 2 p.m. AJ Johnson, uh, social media marketing. 9 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Mountain time. Retro Rads, Play Action Real, Luker. Philly Guy Speaks Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Joe Q. Wednesday we have the Bleach Brothers show at 8 p.m. 12:15 myself, as long as my uncle is from his appointment. I'll do another bit of point perspective, a little more focused, a little more learning lesson that day instead of just having this nice little conversation around the water cooler. Friday again, 2 point perspective, and then into the nightcap following Tony Bruno's show. All right, guys, I'll see you all Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.